What is up there, YouTube? This is J-Man Time, and today I have another video on some rare World War I and II relics and Second Italo-Ethiopian War weapons that were discovered recently in Ethiopia. In March 2020, an Italian company called Nova Jager began posting images of what are essentially some World War I and II era relics and Second Italo-Ethiopian War era relics that were submitted by local civilians in Ethiopia. These weapons were actually discovered in the vast cave systems of Ethiopia. These weapons date back to the Second Italo-Ethiopian War, which was from 1935 to 1936, and this is when Italy invaded and annexed Ethiopia up until 1941, where Ethiopia was finally liberated by the Allies during the Second World War. During the years of occupation, many Ethiopian soldiers and commanders from the Second Italo-Ethiopian War continued fighting the Italian occupation, and these commanders were heads of the guerrilla army, or the Ethiopian resistance movement. During this time period, they captured a variety of different Italian weapons and using them for their insurgency. Many of these weapons were World War I era submachine guns and rifles and carbines from the interwar era. There were also some submachine guns and rifles captured from the Second World War era also. Some of the weapons that were recently discovered were the OVP Model 1918 submachine gun, which is a World War I submachine gun, but it wasn't actually issued until 1921 after World War I. And this was one of the first Italian submachine guns after the Relic. All of the Italian submachine guns of the First World War were basically just the redesigns of the Relic submachine gun from 1915. And the OVP is one of them. Several of these OVP submachine guns were also found in the vast cave systems of Ethiopia. Another weapon that was discovered was the Beretta Model 1918 and the Beretta Model 1918-30 semi-automatic pistol carbine and the submachine gun from the First World War. These submachine guns were used by Italian stormtroopers and assault troops during the Second Italo-Ethiopian War and during the Second World War, and many of these were captured by Ethiopian insurgents resisting the Italian occupation. Some of these submachine guns were also discovered, along with a slew of different Carcano carbines dating back to World War I, and some from the Second Italo-Ethiopian War, and of course some from the early stages of the Second World War. But the most interesting weapon seems to be a rare Turney Model 1921 semi-automatic rifle. The Turney Model 1921 was a rare Italian experimental or limited production semi-automatic rifle that was actually designed to replace the Carcano series of bolt-action rifles. It was chambered for an experimental cartridge, the 7x35-32mm Italian or Turney cartridge. This weapon was fed by either a 6 to 20 round magazine, internal magazine, and this weapon used a strange magazine setup, something that you don't see on most Italian weapons. Now, there was also a second version of this weapon, which was an assault carbine from the same year, and that weapon was known as the Temple Turney Model 1921, and it was fed by a 25 round box magazine. Only 200 of these weapons were ever produced, and it seems that at least a small number of these weapons were used during the Second Italo-Ethiopian War. And the weapon you see here might actually be one of the rare semi-automatic prototypes, the one in the red box. Another weapon that appears to have been located was one of the German MP-35s or EMP-35 submachine guns. And these were German submachine guns that were actually smuggled to Ethiopia in one of the rare moves in which Hitler actually backed an opponent of Italy. During the Second Italo-Ethiopian War, Germany actually smuggled arms to Ethiopia, and that included some submachine guns. And this is one of those submachine guns that were also discovered in one of these caves. And the final rare weapon to be found by the Ethiopians within these cave systems is the rare Swiss-made SIG Model 1944 submachine gun. And this is a World War II era submachine gun designed for the defense of Switzerland towards the end of the Second World War. Towards the end of World War II, Switzerland was actually fearful of a potential Allied or German invasion of their territory, so they resumed manufacturing of submachine guns and rifles, and this was one of the submachine gun models produced by the Swiss towards the end of World War II. And these submachine guns were most likely delivered to Ethiopia during the Civil War era of 1974 through 1991, where a variety of different arms manufacturers were running guns to Ethiopia during that Civil War. And this is most likely how these submachine guns ended up in the cave systems in Ethiopia. And that's pretty much it. These are some of the rarest weapons from the First World War, the Second Italo-Ethiopian War, and the Second World War. And the fact that these were discovered in Ethiopian cave systems proves that there are a lot of rare weapons from those time periods still out there for many relic hunters to locate or find themselves. But what do you all think of these weapons? Which ones were your favorite? If you ask me, my favorite are obviously the OVP model 1918, and of course the rare Attorney model 1921, the rare SIG model 1944. But what are your opinions on these rare weapons discovered in Ethiopia? Please tell me in the comment section below, and until next time, this was J-Man Time, signing off.
Arriverà al benessere, alla potenza e alla gloria. The bugle call, come on, come all the drums are beating and the bugle call, come on, come on, don't mind what Mussolini says, let us march in battle array, and take a gun in our hand and defend the Ethiopian war, declare.
Self-return with British military help to reclaim his throne.
Look what Mussolini is trying to do. Take a bigger mouthful than any man can do. The drums are beating and the bugle call, but we cannot let the Lion of Judah fall. So let us take a gun in our hand and defend the Ethiopian war. Declare. Bugle call, come on, come all the drums are beating and the bugle call, come on, come on, don't mind what Mussolini says, let us march in battle array, and take a gun in our hand and defend the Ethiopian war, declare. Look what Mussolini is trying to do. Take a bigger mouthful than any man can do. The drums are beating and the bugle call, but we cannot let the Lion of Judah fall. So let us take a gun in our hand and defend the Ethiopian war. Declare. Bugle call, come on, come all the drums are beating and the bugle call, come on, come on, don't mind what Mussolini says, let us march in battle array, and take a gun in our hand and defend the Ethiopian war, declare.
Self-return with British military help to reclaim his throne.
Look what Mussolini is trying to do. Take a bigger mouthful than any man can do. The drums are beating and the bugle call, but we cannot let the lion of Judah fall. So let us take a turn in our hand and defend the Ethiopian war. Declare. The bugle call, come on, come all the drums are beating and the bugle call, come on, come on, don't mind what Mussolini says, let us march in battle array, and take a gun in our hand and defend the Ethiopian war.